most organizations are still running comp in Excel. Greatly that we seem to not be making any progress in the area of rewards, even as the rest of the world is evolving.
What would be your approach then to look into?
I think the right solution is to provide team incentives and differentiate by skill and competency levels. Team incentives will outdo individual incentives in every case.
Hi everyone, my name is Saya and I'm here today with my co-host Naila. Welcome to HR and Beyond. In this podcast, we are discussing the future of work and the future of pay as well, and how companies and what they need to do to stay ahead of the game.
We're beyond excited to have Dr. Fermin Diez with us, our guest on today's podcast. He is a recognized HR thought leader who is an influencer in the HR space in Asia, serving on multiple boards, teaching as professor in few universities such as SMU and NTU. He also used to work with different regions such as Latin America, Asia Pacific, living in few different countries now as we were going through the podcast, leading the HR and benefits functions. So a lot of accolades, a lot of awards, and we're so excited to have you today with us. And one thing on the personal note, when I saw Dr. Fermin giving a speech a few years ago, actually, in one of the events, I thought that he's one of the exceptional people who can really unpack complicated topics and who also has a lot of assertive and innovative ideas. So we hope to bring it to you today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you both for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be here.
One of the topics we want to kick off with is actually future of pay, how pay has evolved or hasn't evolved as we were discovering. So let's kick off with this topic.
Pay somehow it's stuck in the past century. When you think about the other HR functions, in benefits, we had change in the 1990s when we went into flex benefits. But in the area of pay, I started doing pay 40 years ago. I started doing pay literally in the 1980s. And the only change I remember seeing, or at least the latest one I remember seeing, is flex benefits. The stuff I teach today to my students at university is the same stuff that I learned in the 1980s on how to do compensation. It's very traditional. Let's do a job evaluation, let's have a merit increase table, let's have salary grades, and let's have a curve to fit people. It's all very, very traditional. What's interesting is that the rest of HR has evolved in the meantime. So when you look at recruiting nowadays, especially with AI, is completely taken off. And we have talent acquisition systems. When you look at the area of development, we have not only learning management systems, but we have on-the-go training and bite-sized training and all kinds of things that are innovative. Even the area of analytics has made a lot of progress. The area of HRIS, we've seen a lot of progress in HR tech. But in compensation, most organizations are still running comp in Excel. And there's only two things that one can think. One, it's so perfect the way it is that it doesn't need to change, which we can talk about. Or somehow we are stuck for some reason. So this is what troubles me. It troubles me greatly that we seem to not be making any progress in the area of rewards, even as the rest of the world is evolving.
Why do you think it's like this? That this area in HR, which is related to compensation, hasn't evolved much versus the rest?
The area of rewards has been driven by four main players, which are the four main HR consulting firms. I have worked for several of them, and without mentioning any names, the truth is that the advice that I was giving under Consultant 1, Consultant 2, Consultant 3 was exactly the same thing, except with a different logo on the first page. All of the consulting firms believe that the right thing to do is you buy my survey and then you do my consulting. If you follow my consulting, you will do your job evaluations and you do your salary grades and you do your merit tables and you do as much variable pay as possible and you put in your long-term incentive. And most people in the area of rewards think that the way to compare rewards is what are my competitors doing so that I can do something similar. That prevents innovation. One of the most ironic things that I hear is when people ask me for innovative ideas for rewards, and I tell them a few, and then they say, oh, great, who is doing that? Well, okay, if you want innovation, it's not a copy thing. If you want innovation is let's try new things ourselves. But let's sort of examine that a bit. What is the one thing that HR does every single year that is guaranteed almost to upset people? What do you think it is?
Merit increase.
Merit increases. What do you think it is?
Increase that doesn't match their expectation.
So back to merit increases, okay? All right. We do this every year. Every year we know that people are going to be upset. Not very many people are going to be happy. We know this because how do we hear from employees? They tell us?
Yes. Tell us in the engagement survey.
In the engagement surveys as well.
talks.
So we have the data that tells us that this is wrong. And then tell me, what will happen next year? What will change? Nothing. Does this make sense? When you recruit people, let's not talk about entry-level people, but you recruit people mid-career. What do you hire them for? What do you pay them for?
For the skill?
For their skills, right?
Yes.
If you're going to lose some of your mid-career people, what is the competitor likely to pay them for? For their skills. But while they're in the company, we don't pay their skills. We pay their job. Variable pay. It's built on a whole infrastructure of KPIs. Who in the listening audience right now believes that those individual KPIs all the way down the line are helping the company achieve its revenue and profitability targets? Particularly the HR people listening to the podcast today will know that hardly anyone in the entire HR department, hardly any of their KPIs is even remotely linked to revenue and profits. I may hear things like, oh, but it's linked to retention and engagement. But then you would have to show, and it's not believe, it's show that retention and engagement are linked to revenue and profits. And most organizations are not that sophisticated. They haven't made that bridge.
Yeah, this connection is tough to do.
So then we have benefits people who may have as a KPI that what they need to do is keep updated on latest changes in the market. And how does that link to anything? So it's a problem because then we have all kinds of people trying to meet KPIs that may or may not help the company achieve its objectives. And then we're going to put everybody through this dreaded curve. And if you're going to compare a benefits person against a marketing person, they are unlikely to win the whole discussion on the
who's
curve
bringing value.
because marketing people will have a better way to show that they are at least somehow related to revenue growth. Whereas the benefits people, where are they going to go? Skills makes a lot more sense in a lot of the kinds of things that we do. Then we have long-term incentives. And people are now putting long-term incentives much lower in the organization. You know what's interesting about this is that when you hire somebody these days, most people don't expect to stay in the company more than 3 years. And then we're going to tell them, yeah, your long-term incentive kicks in after the third year. So, okay, then discount the entire thing. It's like it doesn't exist because I don't plan to be here that long. So there's lots of things that we do in compensation that currently make no sense. Then we're going to face new problems that we haven't even faced before. Like, okay, everybody used to work from the office. Great. So everybody was working in the same city and you had data for the market that everybody was working in and everybody was a full-time employee. That's great. But now you have gig workers and part-time workers and contract workers. And now people can work from home, which basically means they can work from anywhere. My youngest daughter, just to give you an example, works for a company that is headquartered in Milan. She works for a team that's actually in New York, but she lives in Paris. And she doesn't intend ever to move to either Milan or New York. She works from Pome in Paris. Now, should she be paid Milan salaries or New York salaries or Paris salaries? This is a question that we are now going to have to face in compensation that we didn't have to face before.
Just wanted to go back to the point that you mentioned about individual performance and not directly linked to the performance of the organization. And you're right, it's hard to measure. What would be your approach then to look into?
I think for the most part, team leaders, managers, supervisors do have better KPIs that are better linked to outcomes. I think the right solution is to provide team incentives for the entire team under those first and second level supervisors and differentiate by skill and competency levels. So the folks that are in that team that are closer to being promoted should get a higher amount. The folks that are not quite at their level of competency should get a lesser amount. You can do that by either just making it as a percentage of salary, or you can have a multiplier. And basically the multiplier says, if you are, ranked this way, we'll pay you a little bit higher. If you're ranked this way, we'll pay you a little bit lower. That sort of prevents the eternal concern that people have about freeloaders. And when you ask any manager, do you know who your freeloaders are? They generally do. You also, do you know who your superstars are? Yes, they generally do. So I think in the end, it's much more of giving managers the latitude to say, tell me who your freeloaders are and tell me who your best ones. The one thing you want to avoid is that they start peanut buttering thing. Oh no, they're all equally good.
Yeah.
So you do have to force a little bit. And the way to force it is by having competencies that are measurable, as opposed to just the opinion of the manager. So it's perfectly doable. Team incentives, actually, I've done the research myself. Team incentives will outdo individual incentives in every case.
What do you think about, often we see that people who are longer at the workplace, at workforce, like they've been 10, 15 years, usually get better paid versus more junior ones. But sometimes actually skill-wise, junior ones can be more, even sometimes innovative.
Well, this is a problem that we have when we do things the traditional way, which basically will mean that tenure gets paid more.
Yeah.
Simply because you've been there longer, because you keep getting increases and keep getting increases. And it moves you up into the salary grade. Whereas people coming into the salary grade will usually come in below the 0.9 compa ratio into the salary grade. And it will take them a while to catch there. However, if you were better at paying for skills and competencies, then
this should not happen.
It should not happen. You basically start paying people according to what they are worth. So again, let me ask you questions, because I think that it's good for the audience to sort of ask these questions of themselves. 10 years ago, in your company, how many people were gig or part-time?
Very small percentage.
I think zero.
Zero, okay. Today, how many percentage-wise?
I think in Asia, not a lot, but actually I see for sure in other regions.
Okay.
Even Australia or Europe, maybe 5-10%.
5 or 10%.
Yes.
And in another 10 years, how many do you think that will be?
It will
More.
increase, yeah.
To what, 20, 30?
Probably, I think 20
1/5
could
maybe.
be right.
Okay. By the time you have 10 or even 20% of people who are paid part-time, that's a material amount of people.
Yes.
Yeah, that will make a difference. How do you pay all of your part-timers? You pay them for the job or for their skills? You bring them in usually.
You bring them in for the skill.
For the skills.
Of course.
So by default, almost, your part-timers will be paid for skills. Now, imagine this table, and there's 3 of us here. One of us is part-time. Let's say it's me. The 2 of you are full-time. You're paid for the job, and I paid for my skills. Okay? You're new on the job. We're all new on the job, but and we may even have the same skills. But since I got paid for my skills, I'm going to have a higher salary than the 2 of you who just came in at a 0.9 sort of compa ratio. How long until you decide that it's better to be a part-timer?
Not loan.
Yeah. See, the whole point of pay equity is now we have to worry about pay equity, not just of full-timer to full-timer, but full-timer to part-timer. And we're going to do a couple of very interesting things. One is we pay the part-timers for skills, but we pay the full-timers for the job. The other thing that we do is that full-timers need a bonus because, of course, they need to be motivated through variable pay. But how many of the gig people have bonuses?
No.
They don't. Okay. So it turns out that the salary of the part-timer is higher than the salary of the full-timer. How many full-timers do you think would rather work for a higher base pay even if it means no bonus?
Majority.
Yes.
Majority. In my research, it's around 80 to 85% of the people in the organization would rather work higher base pay even with no chance of additional pay. You take away the bonus, just make the target amount base pay. And they're going to be sitting at the same table doing the same project together. And this person gets paid higher base pay. The other people need to earn their bonus. This guy doesn't. This pay inequity will create problems.
What are your thoughts also about flexible pay and variable pay? Because some companies at Netflix, for example, they're now saying they're paying top of base, but there is no bonus.
Actually, I think flex pay is the future of pay. Even more so than paying for skills, although paying for skills, I think, is the next thing. But the real future of pay is going to be flex pay. And it's a very simple notion. We already do flex benefits on a very simple concept. And the concept is different people value different things in different ways. And so some people will rather have life insurance. Some people would rather have days off. The idea of flex pay is to add pay to the same mechanics and basically say, would you rather have extra base or extra bonus? In the companies that have begun to do this, and my best example for this is Shopify. Shopify, actually, when they give you a job offer, what they tell you is your pay is going to be, let's just say, $600,000. Now, you can tell us how you want your $600,000 delivered to you. And they send you your offer letter, says your total package will be $600,000. And they also send you a calculator, which is basically a macro Excel worksheet, where you can play around and figure out, okay, I want this much base and this much bonus. And then you respond to them. And whatever you respond to them, that is how they will pay you.
Even if you choose 100%,
you can choose
base.
100% base, no bonus.
Oh, wow.
Or you can choose, I think they have a minimum, and in some countries there will be a minimum established by minimum wage. And I think they do have a minimum that they want to make sure that you at least are getting paid, because otherwise you don't get paid at all until the bonus gets paid out. So I think they have a minimum base salary, which is probably 40% of pay. Don't quote me on that, but there is some minimum. But yes, you can take 100% base pay, no bonus. The majority of people will choose that. The great majority of people don't want any bonus. Now, in normal finance terms, people would then freak out. Oh my God, if there's no bonus, then how are people motivated? The usual question is very simple. How often do you think people in your company wake up in the morning thinking about money? How often do they wake up thinking, what am I going to do today? You think about listeners. When do you yourselves wake up in the morning thinking, what am I going to do today to maximize my bonus at the end of the year? And if your answer to that question is, I have never thought that way, then you are not motivated by money. However, that doesn't mean that you're not demotivated by money. If you're not paid enough, or if you don't think you're paid fairly, you will be upset. But money is not what gets you out of bed in the morning. Now, if I ask a salesperson, they are thinking about money every single client that they go visit, every single email that they answer, and every single morning that they wake up. What am I going to do today to make sure I get paid the maximum amount that I can possibly get paid? They are motivated by money. Now, it's a simple question to ask. And Shopify just does it by sending you this worksheet when you get hired and say you can choose. By the way, you can change your allocation, I think it's once a year, a bit like Flex.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard about this.
Yeah.
Now, in HR, we are there to attract, retain, and motivate. Do you think this is a better way to attract people if you can adjust the pay to what you think? Yeah. You think it's a better way to retain people? Absolutely. And if motivation is not going to suffer, then why are we not doing this?
Another question which we discussed, what is the motivating percentage increase for people from the research you've done and experience you've seen?
There's actually a lot of things in the academic circles that people in HR never read. I call myself a pracademic because I have gone through the whole academic cycle. I have read the papers, but at the same time, I realize that we have to be practical on many things. But this is where I have landed on this particular topic. The science behind it, the motivation behind it, says this. If you're asking somebody, let's say somebody's an average performer, and you are trying to convince them to work harder so they can get an above average rating. Okay. Now, they may be arguing about the curve and they may be arguing about all of that, but in the end, you as a manager will have to go back and tell them something along the lines of, well, you need to work harder. Translate work harder into times per week. Let's say that it will require an extra 4 hours a week. Monday through Thursday, put in an extra hour. Friday, it's okay. 4 extra hours on a normal week of 40 hours is an extra 10% of time. Let's say people are putting in 50-hour weeks, which is probably more normal. If you're putting in 50-hour weeks and I still ask you to do 4 hours, that's an extra 8%. The research has shown that it takes between 7 and 11% additional pay for people to start to consider that it's worth the effort. Now, most merit tables are built around the idea that if you're average, you get maybe a 4% increase, and if you're above average, you get maybe a 6% increase. So it's a difference of 2%. If you ask any of your employees, for an additional 2% of pay, how much more would you do? The answer is likely to be
for 2%, not much.
Not much, or basically, no, keep your 2%, I'm fine. And yet, our merit tables are predicated on the idea that that extra 2% is going to motivate anybody to do more. We know this to not be true. The science has already shown that it takes 7 to 11%. We know the practical side of us knows that for an extra 2% of pay, nobody's going to do anything. And yet, we do this every year. As if somehow next year the results are going to be different. Remember that definition of crazy is to think that we're going to do the same thing and it's going to have a different result? Yeah.
From what I hear, right, so the future of pay is actually to move to the skill-based pay model.
Part of it is going to be, yes.
And I'm curious, do you see any skills that are becoming more in demand right now and maybe some skills are becoming more devalued in the age of AI and flexibility?
Yeah, there'll be some. Of course, ability to work with AI and to truly take advantage of AI will be priced. Things that AI can now do better will become less priced, like Python coding. The difficulty long-term that we're going to see is that in order for people to get good at working with AI, it is actually easier, funny enough, it is actually easier for more experienced people to get good at AI than it is for junior people to get good at AI. And the reason for that is that the more senior person has a better way to prompt, has a better way to think through what exactly is it that I need to ask because I have the experience of knowing what it should be like and shouldn't be like. The more junior people don't have enough experience to know how to ask AI for things.
Interesting. I never thought about this. Yeah, makes sense.
I would actually think other way around.
No, it's just that more junior people are willing to test AI, but more senior people are more able to get what they want out of it because you have more experience to know what you need to ask of it. So the problem is going to be long-term that the more of the work that gets done by AI, the junior people never learn the way we had to learn. I mean, I had to learn compensation from the beginning, from doing salary surveys at consulting firms, for doing job evaluations, for writing job descriptions. So it's sort of like being a sushi chef. You learn by sharpening the knife. It will become different because that apprentice model will get lost. If you're only seeing now only about 30% of people taking those junior roles, then how are the other 70% ever going to learn how to do it. So there's going to be a long-term problem with that. But at least for now, it is quite clear that there are some capabilities and skills that will be higher priced. The ones that I see still in the literature currently that are most highly priced are things like cybersecurity, but also it's going to be the people that can make products. So in the IT world, the people that can program IT, of course, are very priced. But once you know how IT works, how the LLM works, let's say you take an LLM and you want to turn that into a product that you can, in your own company, or maybe sell it to companies, those people are going to be very highly priced. The ones that can translate current processes into AI algorithms, those will be highly priced. And things that are routine, customer service, things that can be easily replaced by chatbots. In HR, it's going to be recruiting. That's the prime target right now. But it's also going to be things like providing employee relations. It is probably easier to set up a proper chatbot that can answer employee questions about, am I eligible for this program? And, I just
I think everything around knowledge policies, right?
Yes. All of these people that now had to review policies and answer questions, it's a lot easier to set up chatbots to do this. So all of those people in HR will eventually not have a role.
So let's do the lightning questions. The truth or myth about AI.
Okay.
I'll just give you a statement and then you let us know if you think it's the truth or it's a myth and why. Just few. So AI will reduce the need for people managers.
No, not for people managers. I think people managers will still be required. I think we still need to have relationships. I still think that we will need to have people that can show empathy, people that show understanding. So no, people managers will still be there.
Okay. AI analytical decisions are more accurate than human.
No, they're equally accurate. It does depend on the data you put in. The human can make the exact same mistake as the machine can make if provided the exact wrong data, but the machine can just do it faster. So what is going to allow is for you not to have so many other software packages. You don't need Power BI. You don't need other things. You don't need somebody crunching the data. It will do it faster.
Next one. AI kills creativity.
No, actually, AI will require you to be even more creative in how you're going to prompt it. You will need to come up with better ways to ask questions. So no, I don't think it'll kill creativity. I don't think it will enhance creativity either. I think creativity will remain what it is.
And last one, AI adoption in companies is slower than expected.
Yes, very much so. I think we still have... I think, by the way, HR is a lot to blame. I do see, just like we were saying earlier about HR having to lead this process, but HR still being reluctant to lead this process. I still remember one time I was talking about AI in an open forum, and somebody said, "Oh, but AI is evil." And I looked at this person and said, "Why do you say that?" And I said, "Because it's going to retrench people." And if you come from an HR world where retention is one of the highest order things that you want to do, then you will resist AI. And the resistance of AI still comes in the form of, but it's biased and it's not secure and this and that. And in reality, it is less biased than people. It is way less biased than people. It doesn't mean it isn't biased. It is just less biased than people. And there are many ways to make it secure, but if HR is still not on board, it's not going to happen. And you can tell most HR is not on board. The AI implementation will have to take three paths. One is helping you in your individual productivity. Most people will say, yes, I use AI almost daily to help me do simple things like calculate a worksheet or write an email. The second task is going to be to optimize processes. So can you optimize things like writing a job description or writing a job evaluation or things like that. Yeah, you can. So once you start optimizing processes, you begin to see that maybe some people are not needed. But the third one is when you start optimizing enterprise level type of things. And that is where HR needs to take the initiative, because that would require huge change management.
Mm-hmm.
And if HR doesn't lead, somebody else is going to. And if somebody else is doing it, then they're going to look at us and say, why do we need you? So I think we have a problem if we are not leading this transformation.
Yeah. So what are the skills then we in HR should learn now, or competencies, so we are still relevant in the new world, in the future of work?
Okay, 2 of the skills that I think everybody should have don't change. One is to be numerical. And I think most HR people are still not there. I still hear too often, even in my executive teaching, when I teach executives in HR, that I am not a numbers person, I am a people person.
Mm-hmm.
And it always discourages me that people in HR think that these are opposite terms. That to be a people person, you're not numerical? A numbers person. Well, I like to tell stories, so I'll tell you a simple one. The Chinese, and I'm sure in Kazakhstan may be a bit the same, okay? But the Chinese, very big country, all of it spoke different dialects. And you know some of these dialects, Hokkien and Teochew, and Shanghainese and Cantonese and Mandarin. Mandarin was a dialect. It happened to be the dialect that they spoke in the capital, in Beijing. So the government out of Beijing decided that everybody had to learn Mandarin. And they then called it the common language. In Chinese, it's called Putonghua, which means the common language. If you want to talk to anybody else in China, you need to speak Putonghua, you need to speak Mandarin. The business world is the same. There is a common language of business, and the common language of business is a dialect known as finance.
Mm-hmm.
But in HR, we speak another dialect, which is called HR. It's like a Cantonese person trying to speak to somebody that only speaks Mandarin. It sounds like they should understand each other, but they don't understand each other at all. Until we learn to speak the common language of finance, they will not understand us, because the people that speak finance usually don't speak HR.
That's true.
This is what I mean. We need to become numerical, because in the end, the business is not measured in retention and engagement scores. That is not how the shareholders measure the business. The business is always measured in revenue growth, profitability, customer satisfaction and retention, market penetration, market share. These are the things that the business cares about. And we in HR need to understand that whenever we speak to the business, we need to speak to the business in exactly those terms that they will understand. So we can't just go in and say, oh, we should call it a wellness program or a DEI initiative, or you can call it whatever you want, because the first question they're going to ask is in finance. And they're going to say, and what is the ROI on that? And if you don't know ROI, you're just going to say, oh, we will be able to retain people and engage people. Okay, then I would have 2 questions, and this is where we need to become numerical. Question number 1, how many more people will be retained? How high will the engagement scores go? Can you show me that? And typically, we're not even that good. And then the next question comes, okay, you are telling me that we will increase engagement by 5 percentage points. Can you tell me how does that translate into growth and profits? Because if it's going to cost me money, I want to see an ROI. We are business people. We are not just HR people.
Yeah, I think business acumen is a
Yes.
big topic for HR, like HR business partners.
If you ask me what do we need to
general.
learn, that part we cannot lose. We need to improve it. We need to improve our ability to be analytical. We need to improve our ability to speak finance. And then we need to learn IT. The most sophisticated ones right now, I have 2 examples. One is here in Singapore. The other one is in the US. The one in the US is Moderna, the company that does the vaccines. The company here in Singapore is Grab. where the head of HR is now head of HR and IT.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
And the reason for that is that the more companies start implementing AI, the biggest change is going to be on people. If you let IT run it, they will look at it as an IT project, no change management. When HR looks at it, then it is a humongous change management process.
That's so fascinating.
That-
We should invite Grab
Chin-Yin.
HR.
Chin-Yin, she's fantastic. So that's where I think we're headed. We need to get very good at this. I do believe, and I think these two are prime examples, that HR needs to lead the AI transformation in the company, because what AI is really going to do is change the way work gets done. Think about it from the point of view of strategic workforce planning. Right now, we do strategic workforce planning, trying to figure out how many full-time people we will need in 3 years' time. So if the company is going to grow, say, 25%, we need to figure out when are we going to hire, at which level, and which part of the organization we're going to hire people, so that in 3 years' time, we will have enough people who are prepared to be delivering on the 3-year plan. And some of them we will hire, some of them we will grow, some of them will be part-timers. But some of that is going to be work that will no longer be done by people, that will be done by either robots, actual machines, or by some AI agent. So when we, HR, are doing our strategic workforce plan, we should already be taking into account how much of the work needs people, full-timers, how much of the work needs people, part-timers, and how much of the work needs machines, and how much of the work needs AI agents. So our strategic workforce plan is no longer a workforce plan. It's a strategic resource plan.
Yes, I love
And
it.
so what becomes interesting is that we are no longer human resources, we are resources. And this is a big change for HR. The third thing that we need to retain is the human part, but maybe not in our title. But we are still going to have to figure this out. What future of work related, maybe the way we need to start thinking about people is not we need to retain everybody. Is no, maybe what we need to do is maybe retain the 10 or 20% of the people that we truly feel are going to make a difference, that we get really good at recruiting and at letting go the next 50% of the people who don't really want to stay anywhere anyway. So what's the point? And to be very good at getting rid of the 5-10% of the people who are not helping, and no longer think in terms of retention and engagement as the only way that HR needs to be done, because maybe that isn't the right way to be done in the future of work.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to add to that in terms of just how all this comes together. The whole notion that, for instance, engagement drives performance. Every study that I have ever seen on this shows an inverted U curve. What that means is that there is an optimal place of engagement that isn't the maximum. It's somewhere in the 70 to 80% range. So this whole idea that we need to get to as high as possible isn't necessarily true either. When we went to look at this, with sales forces, for instance, what we found is very simple. If there's no tension, if there's no stress, if there's no, I need to work harder to get to my target, they won't. And if they are too happy, they're not working as hard. If they have some degree of stress, that's when they're putting up their maximum. So it sounds odd and it sounds almost Machiavellian, but it isn't. It's the whole notion that we have made these assumptions all the time that all retention is good and all engagement is good, but when you go look at the actual numbers, it doesn't pan out.
Actually, I think healthy stress is needed.
Yes.
No, because we as human beings, we also just want to be lazy and be in comfort. No, so I do think sometimes you need this external push to keep you on alert, to keep you in shape.
Otherwise, it's
but
too
it just
easy.
doesn't work so well when you go into, a town hall meeting and say, yeah, we want you all to be a little bit
We're
stressed.
injecting
So we are
intentional stress.
injecting a little bit of stress. It doesn't play out too well. But this is sort of... So what I advise companies to do is very simple. And I tell this to everybody. Don't believe a word I say. So for all of you that have been listening this far into this podcast, thank you so much. But truly, don't believe a single word I said. Go test in your own company with your own data. Go check your own. Because if you want to convince your own senior folks that you want to try something new and different, don't just, take a printout of this podcast and say, well, so-and-so said so, and you should try it. No. What I would invite all of you to do is go check with your own data. See if you have any data that has performance and engagement, performance and retention, and find where the sweet spot is. And then go make an argument. If you already have all these notions that pay for performance is a problem every single year, then use that data to provoke the discussion with your senior leadership team about what to change. And if you think that not enough people will buy it wholesale, then find at least one that will allow you to do a pilot somewhere. And if that pilot works, then you have the argument to go and implement elsewhere. Don't wait for the consultants or the articles or the conferences to tell you, 50% of the companies are paying for skills for you to then figure out that you need to do something different. You already know that what you have is not working. So let's together build different ways to getting things done so that we can come up with a whole new body of knowledge around pay for the future that right now doesn't exist. And like I said, most of the consulting firms have a vested interest in keeping the business the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not where the leadership is going to be coming from. It's going to be coming from people like you who are listening today that are going to be willing and courageous to try something new and to try something different.
Yeah, that's true. I have a question beyond pay. And this is going to be my last question. Dr. Fermin, what do you think? I mean, I work a lot with HRs who actually say that we don't just compete on the salary or pay, but also on other components like benefits. What role does it play in retaining, attracting talents? And is this true?
It's good that you asked this question because I think benefits will play an even bigger role in the future. In fact, it is already playing a bigger role. When we look at how overall people spend is spent, the people spend growth is mostly on benefits. The benefits portion of the people spend is growing faster worldwide than any other part of HR that we're actually spending on people. And that has to do with wellness programs. That has to do with an understanding that we need to do more at that. Interestingly enough, gig workers don't get benefits. However, when you ask a gig worker what is the one thing that they would like more to have than anything else is benefits, particularly health. Okay? So I think there's going to be enormous growth in the way that HR needs to deploy benefits. I have already done one instance where we did benefits for retention, which is a very interesting idea. And the idea is that in order to retain some of the gig workers, we would offer increasing amounts of benefits that they would have access to by time. So if you spend 6 months with us, we give you basic health insurance. If you spend a year with us, we give you spouse and children health insurance. If you have that, then we give you the premium insurance. So you can design your benefit plans for your gig workers in a way that you can use it as a retention mechanism. I think this is the future of benefits, that we're going to rethink benefits, which is currently sort of like a
once
needed,
you
like
pass the probation period.
As long as it's similar to everybody else, then I don't need to worry about it. And we're going to have to rethink benefits as a way to attract and retain some of these workforces that we're not to. In things like I now work from home and home may be somewhere else, then panels no longer work. Then you need to rethink how your plans are defined. Because if I now live in Bali, like we were saying earlier, and work here in Singapore, then if I get sick in Bali, then how is the plan going to cover me? So we are going to have to rethink a lot of how benefits are designed for the future of work.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think right now, a lot of companies do it in a very traditional way.
Yes.
Once you join, once you pass the probation period, here's all the benefits. But
Yeah.
if you start looking actually when people are leaving and adding those hooks, as you said, like giving like coverage for the dependents, etc., it actually may prolong your
retention
stay at the company.
and your productivity.
Yeah.
And you can even do benefits for performance. Like if you are one of my top 10% workers, I will give you the premium plan. But if you are my regular worker, I'll just give you the regular plan. Something like that. You can actually create benefits, not just for retention, but benefits for performance. I think that we need to start thinking strategically about benefits, and we haven't yet.
And I would assume that the foundation for everything would be analytics.
Of course.
To understand when
and what
how
people
to do
want. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fermin.
My pleasure.
This was for us very eye-opening discussion. So I'm sure our listeners will also find it that way. Thank you so much.
Good. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all for listening.
That's all for today's episode of HR and Beyond.
Please subscribe, follow, and recommend us to your friends and colleagues.
We would love to hear your thoughts or questions. Connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a message,
As we say in Kazakhstan,
Allah, which means onward. Take care, and until next time.